So you can see a parallel plate capacitor which has the capacitance C and is charged by a battery of EMF E. Now there is a dotted line which is a Gaussian surface in this case. You have to find out the electric flux through this Gaussian surface. So we can solve this question via two methods. What is method number one? Well, we are going to go by the basics. We know that the electric flux is a measure of number of field lines crossing a surface, right? Now focus on the diagram. You can see that the capacitor is charged, so the charge distribution is shown, and the electric field lines between the region of the two plates are also shown. And remember, we are considering an ideal case. All right. Now focus on these two parts of the Gaussian surface. These two parts lie inside the two conducting plates in an electrostatic condition. And we know that in such a condition, the field inside a conductor is zero, right? So the number of field lines crossing these two paths of the Gaussian surface will be zero. And what about these two? Well, you can see that the field lines are parallel to these two surfaces. And there will be two more surfaces in the front and at the back, right? If you consider the Gaussian surface to be closed. But let's take the simple case. The surfaces that you see, the part of the surfaces will have the electric field lines parallel to them, and therefore no field lines cross them too, right? Which implicates that by this method we can tell that the electric flux through this Gaussian surface is going to be zero. Now let's see what's method 2. Method 2 is more straightforward. It is what you have already learned under Gauss law. Remember? According to Gauss law, you have the electric flux to be equal to Q enclosed divided by epsilon naught, where Q enclosed is the net charge enclosed by the Gaussian surface. And can you see that in this case the net charge enclosed is zero, because the two surfaces of the conductor carry equal and opposite charge, right? So according to this too, we can see that the electric flux through this given Gaussian surface is going to be zero. So you have your answer. You can tick option D as the right option. Now according to this problem, there are two identical metal sheets, each of area A, and they are placed close to each other such that the distance between the two sheets is D. And obviously they are forming a parallel plate capacitor, right? Now what happens that this capacitor is charged with the help of a battery of EMF E. What happens next? Well, keeping the charge same, the distance between the two sheets is increased by L. You have to find out what is the new capacitance and the new potential difference across the two metal sheets. And then you have to choose the right option. So you can see the arrangement is something like this. And when it is charged with a battery of EMF E, then you know that plus CE charge will come on the positive plate and minus CE charge will reside on the negative plate, right? And now, how do you ensure that the charge doesn't change when you change the separation between the two sheets? Well, first you disconnect the battery and then increase the distance, right? So you can see both the cases on a single screen like that, right? Let's assume that the capacitance in this case is C and the potential difference is V. And when the distance is increased, then let's say that the capacitance is C dash and the voltage is V dash. And remember that the charge before and after is the same. Now finding out the new capacitance is pretty easy. That is going to be C dash is equal to A epsilon naught divided by the separation, which is D plus L. So we found out what is the new capacitance. And how do you find out the new potential difference? Well, because the charge is same, CV will be equal to C dash V dash, right? Let's put the values. So we have C, which is, so let me rub this out. So C is A epsilon naught divided by D, and V is the EMF of the battery, that is E, and this is going to be equal to A epsilon naught divided by D plus L into V dash. A epsilon naught will be gone from both the sides, and you have V dash is equal to D plus L divided by D into V. Or you can write this as 1 plus L by D into V. Right? So we have the new capacitance and we also have the new voltage across the plates. And now, which option do you think will be right? Well, yes, option C in this case will be the right option. So we have a 20 microfarad capacitor, which is connected to a battery of EMF 8.85 volt. Now, given that the area of the plates is 2 centimeters square, you have to find out the magnitude of force with which the positive plate of this capacitor attracts the negative plate. And you can see that the options are in Newton. Now, because the two plates have equal and opposite charge, they both apply force on each other, and this force is attractive in nature, right? So the basic key concept of this problem is the force between the two plates of a parallel plate capacitor. Easy problem, right? Well, if you can remember the formula of the force, well and good. But if you don't, then arriving at the formula is pretty easy. How? Well, you know that the electric field due to each plate has the magnitude of sigma by 2 epsilon naught, right? Considering the charges as plus q and minus q and the area of each plate to be equal to A, you can simplify this. And remember, this is the electric field due to a single plate and not the net electric field between the region of the two plates. All right? So you can simplify this as E is equal to Q upon 2A epsilon naught. And now, to find out the force, you just have to apply F is equal to Q into E. So the magnitude of force is just Q square divided by 2A epsilon naught. As simple as that. So let's apply this formula to find out the magnitude of force in this case. But you know that the charge has not been given. So we will have to use the equation Q is equal to CV to find out the charge. We can put this in this equation. So F is going to be equal to C square V square divided by 2A epsilon naught. Let's put the values in the SI unit because we want force in Newton. So the force is going to be, this is 400 into 10 raised to the power minus 12. So this is C square. And V square is going to be 8.85 square divided by area will be 2 into 10 raised to the power minus 4 meters square, and epsilon naught is 8.85 into 10 raised to the power minus 12. And this will give us force in Newton, right? Let's simplify this out. 8.85 will be gone 10 raised to the power minus 12 will be gone, right? And this is going to be, so are we missing something? Okay, we are missing a 2 in the denominator. My bad. There will also be a 2 here, so this leaves us with 100 in the numerator. Anything else? Well, we have this 10 raised to the power minus 4 in the denominator, which in the numerator will go, and this will become 10 raised to the power 6. So we remain with 8.85 into 10 raised to the power 6 Newton as the magnitude of force. So in this case, option C is the right option. Now the setup that you see on your screen has two concentric spherical conductors, and these two conductors are connected to each other. The radius of the inner sphere is A and the radius of the outer sphere is B. You have to find out the capacitance of this setup. Now let me tell you that this problem is based on two concepts. One is the principle of Van de Graaff generator, and the other one is the capacitance of an isolated spherical conductor. How? Well, let's assume that you give Q1 charge to the inner sphere and Q2 charge to the outer sphere. Alright? Now let's find out the potential of these two spheres one by one. What is the potential of the inner sphere, VA? Well, this is going to be the potential due to itself, that is KQ1 divided by A, where K is 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught. Okay? And the potential due to the outer sphere is KQ2 divided by B. Remember that the potential at the inside of a conductor is equal to the potential on its surface, right? And now let's find out what is the potential of the outer sphere. The potential due to the inner one is KQ1 by B plus potential due to itself is KQ2 divided by B. Now look at these two equations and tell me which potential is higher, VA or VB? Well, clearly you can see that this factor in both the expressions is the same. So it all boils down to KQ1 by A and KQ1 by B. And clearly, because B is greater than A, KQ1 by A is greater than KQ1 by B, which means that VA is greater than VB. Right? Now think about this. If you connect both the spheres with a conductor, then because the potential of A is higher than the potential of B, all the charges on A will flow from A to B, right? And that is why this setup is equivalent to an isolated conductor of radius B, right? So the capacitance of this setup is going to be equal to the capacitance of an isolated spherical conductor of radius B. And we know that the capacitance of a spherical conductor is 4 pi epsilon naught R. So in this case, the capacitance is going to be 4 pi epsilon naught B. So in this case, option C is going to be the right value of the capacitance of this setup. So in this setup, there are two concentric spherical conductors. The radius of the inner sphere is A, which is given as 2 centimeter, and the radius of the outer sphere is B, whose value is given to you as 3 centimeter. Now with the inner sphere earthed, you have to find out the capacitance of this setup. Now obviously the key concept of this problem is the capacitance of a spherical capacitor with inner sphere earth. And you can apply the direct formula if you remember the formula. But what I am going to do now is arrive at the formula by following the procedure. So what is the step 1 of the procedure? Well, we give some charge to the outer sphere. Let's assume that the outer sphere is given a charge Q. Alright? And let's say that the charge that appears on the inner sphere is Q dash. Now let's find out what is Q dash in terms of Q. How can we do that? Well, we know that the potential of the inner sphere is 0 because it is earthed, right? So VA is equal to 0, and using this we can find out Q dash in terms of Q. So what is VA? Well, the potential due to itself is going to be KQ dash divided by A, where K is 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught. And the potential due to outer sphere is KQ divided by B, and this is equal to 0. From here you can see that Q dash comes out to be minus A upon B into Q, right? What next? Well, after finding this out, we want to find out the potential difference between these two spheres. And we know that the potential of the inner sphere is already 0. So all we need to do is find out the potential of the outer sphere. Let's do that. The potential of the outer sphere, that is VB, is going to be KQ dash divided by B plus KQ divided by B, right? How much is this? Well, VB is equal to K by B, and Q dash is minus A by B into Q plus KQ divided by B, which gives us VB as B square KQ B minus A, which is also the potential difference between the two spheres. And remember, C is Q upon V, right? So can you see from here, if we arrange this expression in this format, we get Q by delta V as B square, and let's put the value of K as 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught. So this is 4 pi epsilon naught B square divided by B minus A. And there you go. This is the capacitance of a spherical capacitor with inner sphere earthed, right? And now the time has come to apply this formula. So let's apply this with the given values. C is going to be, so 4 pi epsilon naught B square, which is 9 into 10 raised to the power minus 4, divided by B minus A, which is 1 centimeter, that is 10 raised to the power minus 2. And we can put the value of 4 pi epsilon naught as 1 upon 9 into 10 raised to the power 9. And this is farad. 9 and 9 will be gone. And you have the capacitance to be equal to 10 raised to the power minus 11 farad, or you can say 10 picofarad, knowing that 1 picofarad is 10 raised to the power minus 12 farad, right? So, in this case, you can take option D as the right value of the capacitance of this system.